What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. We are back here today to discuss Monday Night Raw from last night. It aired from Chicago, Illinois, which is such a good wrestling town. Oh, and last night's show was so much better because of the crowd there and just the energy and the liveliness that the crowd exuded and just gave and added to the show. Man, I mean, WWE is a high product already, but the crowd last night just took it to the next level. It almost felt like a pay-per-view or like an AEW show or crowd from the beginning days. You know what I mean? It just hit different last night. And a couple of my friends were there last night, so shout out to you guys who got to be there live and in person. Super happy for you guys. It was such an awesome show, and the surprise that you got too last night. Oh, we'll definitely be getting into that, but as always, thank you guys for checking out the show, downloading it, listening, watching, whatever and wherever you're doing it. I appreciate it. Uh, I'm not gonna waste much time here because I want to get into the show. Like I said, it was pretty packed from last night. But thank you as always again for following the show. And if you're listening here, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, I appreciate that as well. I try to get everything uploaded to I use Spreaker. I'm not sure what some other content users or content people use, but that's my go-to for the disbursement that way. Obviously, like I said, you can watch it on YouTube. But yeah, you guys pretty much know the deal at this point. You can follow me on Twitter at ASHMANNS and the Twitter or the show's Twitter page at Kickash Podcast _. So like I said, we're gonna get right into it because it was a packed show and there was a lot of goodness that came from it. So I'm not gonna waste any time there, but I think to start off, just some general thoughts before the actual show itself. I love the new production. I love the new camera angles and shots that we're getting. I guess it's like probably like a drone or something. Or me, I don't even know. I'm not even gonna sit here and act like I do, but with the way it enters and then we get that broad shot is what's making me think that way. But the shot I'm referring to is the shot that they're doing now from the lobby, right in the corridor for the arena that they're in. And what they do is they go from the corridor and then the little entryway, and then it brings you out into the arena. So like you're a fan, and when you're there, when you go out and when you're looking to find your seats or whatever, and it opens up into the arena, that's the shot that they give you, and it's so dope. And especially since they have packed arenas, it's such a cool visual, and it really encapsulates the energy, and it's not staged either. Whereas before, if they would ever go out into like the lobby area and like where you buy merch and stuff like that, they would have like the fans would be barricaded off, or there'd be like, like you could see clearly people were told don't walk past here type shit. But they were expecting it. And this shot just feels different and it feels organic. So I love that, and I love just different shots that they're doing throughout the show as well. Just there's a one shot in particular where, especially if it's a tag team match, for instance, whoever's standing, like when the partner's standing near the corner of the ring and they're waiting for the tag, the camera comes up pretty much from behind them. And obviously, this is a person, not the drone this time, but they're walking up the stairs behind them and so effortlessly. Like it's just like a cool transition into, and you can literally see like their eye level. So it would be your perspective rather, as if you're standing there on the apron, you're waiting for your partner to tag you in. So it's just really cool. It's just, and there's a few others that I could get into, but I won't bore you guys with that. But it's just really cool to me how quickly they're just experimenting with their production and making changes. And I don't even want to say thinking outside the box. Maybe I guess that would apply here, but just kind of trying new stuff and not being afraid to really just have fun. And it to me it was always so frustrating, not just the default, oh yeah, it's a format show, whatever. But just the fact that it seems like they were almost told, nope, like, nope, as production, like, you have to shoot the show this way at this angle, and like, just like everything had to be a certain way. Whereas now, yes, like for instance, the positioning of the main camera to the ring and things like the hard camera and things like that, that's going to be given, right? Like, you're not going to switch stuff like that up, but you don't have to be glued to that, and not every match and every part of the show has to look the same. So I just think it's last night in particular stood out to me, but there was a show I was gonna say SmackDown last week, maybe it was SmackDown last week. I can't remember exactly, but just the past couple shows have really, production wise, have just really started to stand out to me. So I just wanted to kind of reference that here and give the production crew shout out and love, because they are the true unsung heroes of shows like wrestling. To think of all the time and effort that it takes these men and women to set up the production, this, or not the production, but the staging, the ring, the seating, and everything that obviously we see, they in some situations get in and they set up and tear down within 24 hours, you know what I mean, and less than, obviously. So it's just amazing to me. So shout out to all you guys. If any of you have ever worked production, anything like that, any, whether it's a movie set or wrestling or anything like that, shout out to you guys and gals, because that takes a lot. But with that, and one more thing before we get to the card, the fact that it's another sellout, I think it's shouldn't go without mention and shouldn't be overlooked, or just like, oh yeah, or just I don't even want to say expected, but I guess we'll still get overlooked, because yes, it's happening more and more frequently, but I think Michael Cole said it was either a 6 or 7 night or a show streak that they've sold out, and it's legit sellouts. And we, like I just mentioned, you can see from the camera views and the different angles, and the fact that WrestleTix, a reputable source, they will report the same or something damn near similar. Not counting like Comtix and things like that. So it's I say that because it's really exciting, and it's exciting for us as fans, because that means the wrestling business as a whole is thriving, and that can only mean good things and better things for other companies like AEW, TNA, MLW, and shows like that, and industries like that. Well, and not industries, and other promotions like that. I just really think that the hotter and the bigger and the better that WWE gets and continues to get, that can only trickle down. So it's just good for the whole, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes we not and I'm sure not the sophisticated people here, but sometimes people on like Twitter, and especially that's pretty much the only thing I really check out. A lot of the fans, and I'll even say in, I'll give credit. Not a lot of the people, or the feed that I follow, and the things that trickle to my feed. Not a lot of it's negative, but I'll see like screenshots from people I follow, like commenting on like the screenshot of the person who was talking shit, or oh, only pro AEW and WWE sucks, and vice versa. You know what I mean? That's just so dumb. And I've said that before. I'm not gonna get on that tangent right now, but to me, like I said, it just makes me feel better and makes me happier as a wrestling fan, because it just solidifies that wrestling as a whole is good, and it's only going to keep getting better. So shout out to everyone involved. Shout out to, if you're an independent wrestler or anyone, just I guess today's the day of kudos, rather. But yeah, just shout out to everyone involved in the wrestling business, and making it a better place too, in many aspects of that word and that phrase. So with all that mumbo jumbo out of the way, we'll get into the show itself, which, like I said, easily had to be probably the show of the year, TV show wise, wrestling show wise, as far as like weekly episodic TV. PLEs and pay-per-views are obviously something different, in a different category, but man, like, and maybe it's just recency biasy, or something like that, but I just think last night it was a very hot show, it was a very hot crowd. Everything just clicked, made sense, right? Nothing was spotty or shoddy, or like just like a big announcement, or like kind of like, not obviously not a bait and switch, but just something that, oh, okay, like it'll be good for this week, but not really next week type thing, like a cheap ratings boost or plug type thing. Everything made sense and was fun, because it's leading to something, and it's clear for all of us, obviously, like the things for instance with Rock and Cody, we know what it's leading to, the matchups, and we can speculate what's going to happen after WrestleMania, but we don't know what's going to happen. It's not predictable. So that's what's so fun, and that's what just last night especially just kind of encapsulated, again, just the hot streak that WWE is on, yes, but with stories too. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like, but it's not new them making money, right? Yes, they may be making record levels amount of money, but they've been making a few bill like for the past few years now. You know what I mean? So the fact that they're cooking like in that regard in the business side, but the storylines are so much better, and you have to tune in. Last night was a show that you just had to watch all the way from the beginning to the end. Um, you just couldn't miss anything, and I don't remember an era within the past 5, 10, maybe 15 years that's been like that. So I think that's fun. And we'll get into what I think maybe will happen in the future, like with upcoming shows like SummerSlam and things like that. But getting into the show itself, and per usual, I will be reading the transcription and the live reporting from ProWrestling.net, Jason Powell. So shout out to him. Um, ProWrestling.net. Again, check it out if you haven't. But starting off with the show, just references the opening. They showed a video rather of CM Punk arriving, which again, another production piece I think is pretty cool. Something small, but really just gives it a cool vibe, gives it more of a sports like vibe. Then we had Cody Rhodes making his entrance. He asked the Chicago crowd what they wanted to talk about, of course. He said he could say nothing, and he said they were in the final awkward 2 weeks before WrestleMania, when the time for talking is over. Cody recalled Roman Reigns' appearance on the Pat McAfee show and had the crowd cheer for McAfee and then told him to dial it back because it's just Pat. Cody had the crowd give it up for Michael Cole, that is, then shifted his focus back to Reigns. Cody recalled Reigns referring to him as a politician who makes promises that he can't keep. Cody said Chicago should know more than any other city that when he makes a bet or a promise, he absolutely keeps it, which is very true there. Cody recalled being invited to be a fan's best. Cody said, "Imagine having to explain to his wife, and imagine having to explain it to his wife and why he was going and paying for the bachelor party." So essentially, what he was saying there, Cody a little while back, a fan had and made a sign asking Cody Rhodes to be his best man, and Cody Rhodes accepted. That's my dog in the background. Shout out Cal. But yeah, and Cody Rhodes accepted. So apparently he is going to be that fan's best man, which is say that 5 times fast. And I guess he's paying for the bachelorette part or the bachelorette, the bachelor party. So that's pretty cool. But he goes on and states similar examples and said he asks for nothing in return. He said that Reigns sees it as desperation, but Cody does all this while pretending to be the champion because the champion isn't here. Cody said he respects Reigns, but he's aware of the way he screwed him out of his dream last year. Cody said he respects Reigns, but he hates his guts. He said he understands if Reigns hates him because he and his cousin The Rock can't have their wank fest at WrestleMania. He said that he won the Royal Rumble and said he learned if anything last year that he can't do it. Oh, okay, it's just a little bit weird wording. But pretty much that if you learned anything last year is that he can't do it alone type shit. um, Cody goes on to say he actually was going to ask for something back. He asked the fans if they would ride with him during the WrestleMania Night 1 tag match and if they fight with him at WrestleMania Night 2. Cody said that if he was going to point oh, Cody said that if he was going to put a point at the sign, he wanted the fans to point along with him. Which to me, for whatever I guess since I was there, but for me, when he asked the fans to point with him, it was cool. Don't get me wrong, but immediately I thought of at the Royal Rumble when the fans just automatically did it with Bailey, which is just such a cool and genuine moment and situation. But this was cool too. You know what I mean? Just seeing the backdrop again of people just pointing with Cody. It was pretty dope. But I believe that was it. Yeah, and he wanted the fans to point along with him. Cody pointed at the WrestleMania sign, and the fans followed his lead. So there we go. And right after that is when we had our surprise moment of the night. The Rock's entrance theme interrupted Cody, and he made his entrance. I don't know why that just sounded weird in my head as I was saying it. The Rock struck his rope poses while Cody stood in the middle of the ring. Once Rock was finished, he stopped and glared at Cody. The cheers for Rock's surprise appearance turned to boos once his music stopped playing, which is pretty cool. And it says a lot, you know what I mean? But I love that especially the Chicago fans, that they're just still riding with Cody. But continuing on, Cody and Rock had a long stare down, and neither man had a microphone in hand. The fans were censored for chanting "Holy shit," which is so annoying. The silent stare down continued while "This is awesome" chant started, followed by a CM Punk chant. And bro, first of all, I fucking hate the "This is awesome" chant, so there's that. But man, like I was praying to the wrestling universe up there, which is weird to say since WWE universe, but whatever. That they would, I don't even know if, I mean, obviously since it wasn't planned, but if they would have called an audible and had CM Punk just show up and not even say anything either, just come out there and just maybe even stand still on the stage and not even walk down the ramp and get in the ring. But I think it would have been even cooler if, since obviously we already know CM Punk was going to be there to begin with, have him come out, walk to the ring, and stand Rock, Cody, and then CM Punk. Maybe you don't want to have CM Punk as the center because you don't want the main focus, visually to be on him. But regardless of the placement, I think that would have been just fucking stellar. Even if you would have had Punk make his way all the way up to the apron and the ring post right there, but not actually get in the ring. But just have a wide span shot of the three of them. Man, I think that would have been stellar. I think that would have just been, and then you can still do your CM Punk stuff later, but and I know they don't want to reference that, and it's don't add more shit to the pot, you know what I mean? That they're dealing with right now when it comes to the bloodline and Cody and Seth and all this stuff, but man, I don't know. I don't know. I still, part of me just, I don't know if I could have resisted it, especially when the fans started chanting it. But yeah, we'll get into that more and more later as we go along. But continuing on here, Rock put his arms behind his back and approached Cody. And to me, he was kind of doing it in a gesture and leaning a little inward, kind of like, it was kind of referencing like, take here's a free shot for you, I'm not even gonna attempt to defend myself, like, take your shot, your best shot type shit. um but then Rock ended up saying something to Cody and then smiled and backed up while dropping his arms to his side. He started to leave, which drew boos from the fans. He looked at he being Rock, looked at the crowd and then made his exit without saying a word. Cole said Cody seemed to be taken aback by whatever Rock told him. A Rocky sucks chant broke out. And I laughed because it did, and I was so happy it did too, because it started right as he was standing towards the end of the entrance ramp. And to me, it was just so perfect because first the fans were pissed because The Rock is still kind of being a dick to Cody, right? But the fact that he didn't say anything either, and then the fact that The Rock was just eating it up and just visually happy at the fans booing him was just so great. Just so great. But as Jason mentions here, Rock smiled as he looked at the crowd and then headed to the back. And Powell's point of view, which I always love these, he stated, a good promo from Cody, followed by the fun surprise of a silent Rock, and obviously we'll know what happened later on. Powell continues, I'm not sure what Rock said, but it was obviously a nice hook that should make viewers stick around to find out. I like that Cody was respectful regarding Reigns, yet finally states that he hates his guts. And then we continued on with the show. But I loved that segment. I love the way Cody kind of felt like he was just kind of, I don't want to say freeballing it, but just kind of like he obviously knew what he needed to do. But, and especially, I'll be echoing this later on when we get to the Punk part of the show. But I just loved the feel of Cody's segment. I don't think obviously it was his best one or anything like that, but I think it was good. And I just liked him just being kind of honest and just being kind of, maybe not even honest, but just kind of talking to us like someone, and people who know what's going on but not revealing everything, if that makes sense, like talking to us like, yeah, this is the awkward point of the year where we're in the last 2-3 weeks before WrestleMania, and the time for talking is over. We've pretty much done everything we can do storyline wise and build wise, and now we're just killing time until we get to Mania type shit. But it didn't even feel like this, and or like that rather, and that's another reason why I really loved the show last night, because it just felt raw, you know what I mean? It felt like a show from back in the day, and maybe not all the way to that point. If Attitude Era show, like the hottest one, was a 10, maybe like a 7. You know what I mean? Maybe a 7, maybe even like a 7.5 in regards to like one of the best shows of all time. I definitely think it was the best show of this year, if not the past couple years. Um, and again, I would have to look back and think on everything, but I just think the whole layout and the threading of this show and the focus and the destination that this show had, it was just very well done. And I think the Cody and Rock's segment, and especially knowing what we know now, how the show ended, I would have been happy with just that, you know? But I think that the fact that it really played into and took away the one thing that we love The Rock most for, right? Which is him bullshitting on the mic. What is the number one way for The Rock to get us to hate him and to get us to boo him? Not saying anything, because we can't. That's The Rock. It's like Stone Cold coming out and not saying anything. It's like Chris Jericho when, what was it, 2000, I don't think it was 2008, maybe later on, his one of his other returns when he came back, but he wasn't saying anything for the first few weeks of his return. Gosh, I don't remember what year it was. Maybe it was later on. Maybe it was the breaking the code phase and era, or maybe it was the suit era. This is when I wish I had someone else on here, and we could maybe they would know right offhand. But let me know, guys, if you know right offhand. But anyway, it's not important. The important thing is, what do we love those guys and those wrestlers for? Them bullshitting on the mic and them talking to us and them talking shit and the charismatic personality that we hear from them coming from the microphone and from hearing them talk. That's what makes wrestling so great, is the stories and them, whether it's just a brief 10, 15, 30-second promo, a minute promo, whatever, or they're doing 10, 15 minutes out in front of the fans, like them talking and them saying whatever they're saying on the mic is building and laying that story. So with The Rock being one of the best to ever do it, him not saying anything to me was just the perfect way and the perfect layup for later on that evening. And it's, like I said, how we know the show would soon, or late 3 hours later, not soon, but would end and take a drastic turn. Because he definitely didn't remain silent. But if that was the only thing that we were going to get from The Rock last night on Raw, especially with him being a surprise, I think that would have been perfect, and just another teaser, another reason for you to tune, like Jason Powell said, for you to tune in, whether it's next Friday or this coming Friday on SmackDown, or next week on Raw, or the lead-in. I'm pretty sure next week is the lead-in SmackDown for um WrestleMania night 1 and night 2 on Saturday and Sunday. I blank there. But moving on, because like I said, we have a lot of the show that we're gonna get to and that I want to specifically talk about. And I'm not gonna go through everything detail for detail here. But we do have the actual first matchup on the card here, which was Ricochet versus JD McDonough, and that match was very good. I mean, obviously, like, how can it not be? Um, and to me, it was in for the record, Ricochet ended up defeating JD McDonough. And like Powell said, a hot opening match. The broadcast team did a great job of acting in all of Ricochet's most dynamic moves. Dom definitely enhanced the match, and the crowd loved seeing the referee give him the boot. So with me, it's a cool little build that they're doing for Ricochet and having him go through the Judgment Day. I wish we could get a Ricochet and Rhea Ripley match. I think that would be fucking just wild to see. But obviously we're not going to. But I like what they're doing with Ricochet. It's surprising to me because I'm not really sure where they're going with it. But I think it's cool to see him get some victory and some victories and some wins rather. Um, and to not just be someone who goes out there and has a really great match, look really, really good, but always ends up every time. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what they end up doing with them going forward. But then CM Punk was showed backstage, walking backstage rather, with the Chicago Cubs replica title over his shoulder, and Cole mentioned that Punk would appear next. And we are not going to waste any more time. um, if you guys know me, this was definitely my favorite part of the evening, and I stand corrected because Jason Powell has referenced here what Cole had mentioned regarding the attendance and their record that they're going on. Well, not record, but in regards to their ticket sales. Apparently Cole boasted that this was the 11th straight sellout on the road to WrestleMania and listed the attendance last night as 15,810. And that's fucking wild. That's crazy. That's amazing. That's just so great. And I hope, obviously, the road to WrestleMania and the build to WrestleMania is hopefully the hottest period of each year. And it's gonna die down, obviously, but I hope and I don't foresee it really dropping off that far. So it's just great times, guys. It's just great times. And if we end up getting at SummerSlam what I think, and I've been predicting that we may be getting, um, it's just gonna make SummerSlam that much bigger and better. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. What we have next is finally my like I said, my favorite part of the night, which was CM Punk making his grand return to Chicago, and boy, did they give him enough time to. Punk's entrance music played. The camera showed Punk walking through the curtain backstage. He came out and began to say "it's," and then the crowd filled in the clobbering time for him, which is it's pretty cool. But I miss him screaming it too. You know what I mean? I feel like the past couple times we've seen him, he's kind of let the fans say clobbering time, which I miss that though. I miss Punk doing it and saying it, but it is what it is. Um, Punk said, and then the crowd. Oh, okay. Sorry, I went back a line there. But Samantha Irvin introduced Punk as Chicago's own Punk, who had a brace on his surgically repaired arms. Oh, Punk. Okay, I see what he did there. um, his surgically repaired arm stopped to sign an autograph for a fan before going to the ring. Punk headed back to ringside and then slapped hands with Irvin, then grabbed a microphone and hopped onto the broadcast table and held up the mic while the crew got a shot of the WrestleMania sign behind him, which is a very cool shot. Punk's entrance music stopped once he was inside the ring and the fans chanted his name. No surprise there. Punk, I'll say that. Never mind. I'll save it for when Drew comes out. But Punk said he had a lot of things he wanted to say and a lot of business to get to, but he asked if it was good to be alive in Chicago on a Monday night. The fans cheered. No surprise there. Punk said people are asking if he will be at WrestleMania. Punk said the short answer is yes. He said his elbow is not great or 100%, but his mouth works. We're not on Netflix yet, so I apologize. April knows what I'm talking about, Punk said, and he laughed. So if you know, you know. Punk said people have made suggestions that he host WrestleMania. He said he didn't know. He said 10 years ago he would have thought that was beneath him, but now he just wants to be in front of the people. Punk brought up the idea of being a referee and asked if there was a match that needed the most impartial referee. Gonna stop there. I like how Punk is in his promos now. He has a way of referencing his prior self and some of his prior gripes with WWE specifically, and finding a way to very quickly justify it and explain pretty much like the prior gripe and then the current resolution. So in this situation, if that makes sense. So in this situation where he references, and I was so happy he did, because that was my immediate thought when he said host. I was like, oh Christ, here we go. He's not gonna be happy. But when he said 10 years ago he would have thought it was beneath him, but now he just wants to be in front of the people. First of all, I believe it 110% that he wants to be in front of the people. I don't think that's just bullshit. And I'm not one of those people either that's in the ball camp of when he first came back, when he said, oh, WWE, like, and when he said he's home now or whatever it was. I believe that as well. And I'm not going to get into that specific reasoning here, but for this statement and for this blurb, I guess, for lack of better words, the fact that he said 10 years ago he would have thought it was beneath him, that was one of the things that we all know that he was bitching about before, right? Was pretty much his positioning on the card and the fact that full timers would come in and they would pretty much truncate and jump everyone else who's been working their ass off full time during the year and just beeline to the top, and how anything less than the main event to him, even if it is a match with the Undertaker, felt beneath him and felt that that wasn't what he was owed and what he was deserved and what he deserved rather. So the fact that he kind of referenced that and then continued to tie it into why he's okay with doing it now and not just being a hypocrite who's there for the money, I believe it. And to me, it makes total sense. And yes, obviously, I'm a fan. Maybe, I'm just blind or blind by Punk's love or whatever. You know what I mean? But to me, it's logical and it makes sense. So if I'm just blinded, like I said, or if I'm way off base there, let me know. But continuing back to his promo here, Punk said people had made suggestions that he host WrestleMania. Literally just read the same paragraph. Sorry, guys. Punk said there are a lot of people who talk about him and need to talk about him. Punk pointed to McAfee, who again got a lot of attention tonight. Punk said he's not a daily listener because he listens to the Experience in the Drive-Thru, which is Jim Cornette's podcast, which, oh my god, it was just so fucking great for so many reasons. That's why I fucking love this guy. But Punk said McAfee had Roman Reigns on his podcast, and Punk wondered why Reigns brought him up. Punk said Reigns earned the right and he respected it, but Punk said that he expects to see Reigns while he's on his way down the mountain and while Punk is climbing the mountain. So pretty much they're gonna meet each other as one descends and as one ascends. Which I love and I love too that his little promo here is just kind of like checking off some boxes, really quick for various reasons. Either continuing his feud with McIntyre, which we'll get to, obviously, addressing the current one that he was supposed to be having with Seth, future one with Roman Reigns, and things like that. So, just so well done, in my opinion. But continuing back here, Punk brought up Seth Rollins and said that he's magically taller than he is now, and that he wears his high heels. Yeah. Punk said Rollins laughed at him for paying the price of being a pro wrestler since he was 15. Punk said maybe Rollins has earned the right, but it's kind of funny coming from someone with two bad knees. So what Punk was saying there obviously was apparently there was a time, and maybe it was even during a segment on the show, that Seth, I guess, laughed or mocked CM Punk getting injured. And Punk saying this comes from a guy who's had knee surgeries and knee issues. To me, it's just like, whatever, guys, like, come on. It's like, whatever. It's just dumb to me. Like, oh, comparing injuries and saying, oh, you're injury prone and I'm not, like, type shit, or like, it's just whatever. Like, I don't know. And now it's one thing if you're reckless and you're breaking your arm every 4 or 6 months because you're doing dumb shit and you're not safe, that's one thing. But if it's just like freak accidents in the ring or things like everyday maneuvers that you would do, like with Adam Cole's when he literally just jumped down from, I think it was either the apron or the that night when they had the entrance ramp that was level to the ring, when he simply just jumped down and he fucked up his ankle and his foot and all that shit. So simple freak accidents happen. Like when Punk, I mean, maybe it wasn't smart for him to jump over the railing, but he shattered his ankle. Who would have thought that? You know what I mean? People stage dive and jump into crowds all the time. And I don't know. And I mean, obviously they don't smack their leg every time, right? But I'm sure there's been multiple situations where people have whacked their foot on something, doing something very similar, and they don't shatter their ankle. Or like Cole, obviously, people jump out from shit all day, every day, and they shatter the ankles. So to me, that's not really a cool dig or even a dig. It's like, okay, yeah, like I can't help my ankle shattered because I did a basic maneuver. So whatever. And no matter who's saying it, whether it's Punk, Seth, to me it's just dumb. But moving on, Punk said The Rock is someone who hasn't said a word about him. And this is where I'm glad that he started kind of like tying in and tying some loose strings here. Punk said he'd like to think it's because 10 years ago he came face to face with the Second City Saint and realized his arms are too short to box with God. Which is fucking, I legit laughed out loud for that. Punk brought up Drew McIntyre. Punk said he doesn't live on the internet and said that when you have a problem in Chicago, you handle it face to face like a man. McIntyre's music hit and he made his entrance. Punk barked for McIntyre's stupid song to be turned off and said nobody wanted to hear it. Punk said he wasn't medically cleared, but he wasn't looking to have a wrestling match. Why don't you get your bitch ass in here? Punk said. So yeah, there's that. McIntyre stood on the stage and said he would love to get in the ring, but the last time they were in the ring together, he stomped his arm and he deserved it. Punk asked if he was a Scottish psychopath in a kilt or an internet troll in a skirt, which was great. McIntyre said it's 2024 and Punk can get canceled for talk like that. And, oh, I'll save it. McIntyre made his way to ringside and showed off his Punk inspired t shirts. Punk said he never had to put another man's name on a shirt to sell it. McIntyre tore off one of his shirts and said he struggled to get out of it because of his biceps, which is something Punk probably never had an issue with. It was just dumb shit, but it's just so funny. McIntyre climbed onto the broadcast table and said Punk doesn't drink or do drugs, and yet he spends all of his time in rehab. McIntyre said he doesn't hate Punk. Punk actually completes him. McIntyre spoke about how thinking about Punk helps him in the gym and when he won the Elimination Chamber. Punk told McIntyre to get in the ring. McIntyre said Punk probably had a weapon and would. Oh yeah, he missed a chunk here because McIntyre had referenced like being from Chicago essentially or something to that effect. And since Punk is from Chicago or since they're in Chicago, that Punk probably had a weapon and would try to take him out before WrestleMania, which is why McIntyre wasn't getting in the ring, which is just hilarious. Um, Punk laid down in the ring. McIntyre sat down on the broadcast table with his legs crossed and said he hopes Punk has a front row seat at WrestleMania. And at one point, I think it was probably then when McIntyre sat down, he did like kind of cross-legged, and told the cameraman not to look up his kilt, you perv. Which little things like that just really added to this whole segment, which I think was around 20 minutes or maybe a little bit less. It was just so good, so good. But continuing on, McIntyre boasted that he's always been the chosen one. Punk dared McIntyre to say who dubbed him the chosen one. Punk said it wasn't the people, and he was trying to get him. It was like he said a few things like the paragon of virtue or some shit, referencing Vince McMahon because obviously Vince is the one who coined McIntyre the chosen one. So Punk was like mocking that, like who gave it to you? Who gave it to you? Type shit, and Punk or McIntyre wouldn't bite, which respect to that, but I love this segment just because another example. It felt real. It felt like they were going back and forth with each other. It felt like they probably had some bullet points, maybe kind of knew what they were going to be talking about, but everything like the majority of it was like just ad lib and just feeling it, right? But that's cool, like that's what makes it fun and that's what makes it believable. Just little things and little reactions, which we'll get in here too as well when in a moment here. But Punk was continuing on pretty much to say that, it wasn't the people who call McIntyre the chosen one. Like the McIntyre wasn't deemed the chosen one by the people like Punk was. He was set up that way, essentially. But then again, right here, McIntyre is the one who suggested that Punk be the guest commentator at WrestleMania so he could see him win the championship. That's when Seth Rollins' music played and he came out, which made Punk annoyed, which no surprise there. Rollins entered the ring and stared at Punk before getting a mic and staring at McIntyre, who was standing on the broadcast table. Rollins looked at Punk and while leading the crowd and chanting that it was Monday Night Rollins said they firmly established, or now that he's firmly established whose show it was, that Rollins, or it's kind of whatever. Whatever. Rollins told Punk that he doesn't get to make the decisions about a title match at WrestleMania when he's not in it. But during that brief pause there, CM Punk chants had continued to ring out because obviously they're in Chicago. And Punk had mentioned that it could be Rollins' show, but it's his city. So that was kind of the in between there. But a little bit more just back and forth with Seth and Punk here. Rollins opted to poll the crowd rather. Rollins asked the fans if Punk should be on commentary, which didn't get much of a reaction. A referee chant started, which made Punk laugh, like legit laugh. Rollins pointed to Punk's arm in the brace and said that's his counting arm. Punk dropped to the mat and made a 3 count with his good arm. And Punk said, to be fair, he didn't think he could be objective and was censored when he called Rollins and McIntyre dipshits. That segment right there as well felt real. Don't think in the back they wrote down, okay, so Seth is going to reference that he can't be a referee, because who would have thought that the crowd was going to chant referee, right? Maybe they did have an idea, like, okay, if they say referee, do this, this, and this. but it just felt all organic. It just felt like, okay, Seth had to figure out something to react or to say in regards to them chanting referee. So he was like, oh, well, the obvious thing is that's his counting arm. And then Punk, being the dude he is, he just has to prove his point. Like, nope, I can drop down and do it with the other arm. So just great. Continuing on again, Rollins asked Punk if he wanted to know what he thought, and Punk said nope. Which again, another reason that I was gonna say earlier, just made this thing feel so natural, so organic. Because no, why would Punk care? Nope. Definitely sounds like something Punk would say in real life. Rollins said that was ironic because he doesn't think anything of him and he hasn't crossed his mind since the last time they were in the ring together. Rollins said Punk is a non-factor and it doesn't matter if he wants to be on commentary or the referee of the title match. Rollins said Punk needs him to have a moment at WrestleMania. Rollins said he likes the idea of Punk being on commentary, calling his finest hour. Great job by Seth tying everything back into together. He's just so great. People don't give him the credit that he deserves in some regards. But Rollins said the way things are going for Punk is as close to a championship match he would get. Rollins told Punk the one thing he needs him to do is stay out of his way. Punk said it was decided. He said he would sit in on commentary. He said he would do something that the company couldn't do during his 10-year absence by making Rollins and McIntyre interesting. Punk left the ring and said to pretty much hit his music. McIntyre called for it to stop and said Punk isn't in the match and doesn't get the last word. McIntyre said Punk is obsessed with him. McIntyre said he is living Punk's dream and Punk is his number one stan. And pretty much just went on to mock Punk, and then Rollins hit him with a super kick and then a stomp. And I loved everything about the segment. I'll get to Powell's point of view in a second here. But I loved everything about the segment. I loved just kind of recapping here, but I love the organic feeling of the whole segment. I love how, yes, they obviously had a direction, but not even really. They weren't out there to drill in, oh, like, be excited for this championship match and be excited for Punk and do all the cliche things. It was everything that you would hope it would be. It kind of was, and I don't see how they could have done that any better. So I am such a big fan. I love Punk being a dick and just destroying McIntyre. You know what I mean? And I think that McIntyre, I was kind of taken aback by it. And shout out to McIntyre. I mean, this is what I was going to mention earlier. He's such a great follow on social media now, but oh my god, this motherfucker went to Mindy's Bakery in Chicago. He pulled up there, literally was filming himself walking up to the bakery, and they were closed because they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. But my goodness, he is just fucking great. So if you guys haven't seen that video, go. I'm pretty sure it's on his Twitter page. That's the only place I've seen it. It's on Drew McIntyre's Twitter page, so check it out. It's just fucking hilarious. But yeah, in regards to the segment here, I loved everything about it. I can't wait for Punk to come back. And when Drew said, "Yeah, go ahead and get your chance in now while you can because he's not going to be here for months still because he's still rehabbing." It was such a bummer because it's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. We still have months before he can come back." But that's another reason why I'm very much looking forward to SummerSlam this year because as long as things work out recovery-wise and no one's rushing anything, easily could see Drew versus Punk being the co-main event. But man, guys, let me know what you guys thought of that segment. It's when you gotta take a breath after. But Powell said, "Wow, that was a wild ride. The tease for Punk being special referee made the announcement he'll be the special referee feel like a legend." Okay, he got that wrong there. Or just add it, just whatever. What he meant to say was made the announcement that he'll be the special commentator feel like a letdown. The great thing about the verbal exchange is that it felt authentic. Punk didn't just stand there and wait for Rollins and McIntyre to say their words. He interrupted them in ways we typically don't hear in these in-ring verbal exchanges. Punk's daring McIntyre to say Vince McMahon's name was something else. Everyone involved got their fair share of jabs in, and I really enjoyed the segment, but I don't know how effective the ending was when it came to making me more excited about Rollins versus McIntyre. So again, everything I pretty much kind of felt and thought there as well. But man, guys, yeah, I like I said, I loved it, and it makes me miss Punk even more. Again, we're running a little long here, so I'm not going to go down in depth with everything on the show here. It is a 3-hour show. I definitely recommend checking out the Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley segment. It wasn't, like out of like knocking it out of the park type shit, but it's just always good to see a Rhea Ripley. um, but moving on to the ending segment, and of course, what everyone will be talking about after the main event match, which saw Jey Uso defeating Shinsuke Nakamura. The cameras caught up with Cody and Jimmy. So towards the ending of the match, we had the Bloodline, which was Jimmy and Solo Sikoa coming out to try to interfere, but then Cody and Seth Rollins came out to save the day. Cody and Jimmy, and I believe Seth did as well. They all ended up making their way to the back. But then, where we're picking up here, after the match where the cameras caught up with Cody and Jimmy, that's where they left off at. So they were still brawling in the back. Cody ran Jimmy out of an exit door. Sikoa showed up and went after Cody, who was getting the better of him when The Rock showed up and attacked Cody from behind. The Rock threw a garbage can at Cody. Rock jawed at Cody about talking trash for the last 2 weeks. He dumped a toolbox on Cody and said, "Look at you now." Rock called Cody a piece of trash and ran him into a barricade before slamming a trash can over his head again. Outside the building, Rock worked over Cody in front of Cody's tour bus while rain fell. "Get up, boy." And since they were outside in Chicago, Rock said, "The Rock is the final boss. You want to run your mouth. You want to be a hero." Rock called him a son of a bitch and ran him into the side of his own, Cody's, tour bus. And it was great because towards the end of the beatdown, Cody's final resting place, there on that side there was whether it's like a whatever, it was like images and pictures of Pharaoh the dog on there as well, which Rock has talked shit about. So it was just so well done. And I'm just gonna reference it here again really quick. People called out that on the other side of them was the WWE crew trucks, the big 18-wheeler type trucks that bring in, well, not type, they are trucks that bring in the equipment and shit. The one that was parked right beside the shots had John Cena, Stone Cold, and I didn't see who was on the third side. And swear that has to be a tie-in that they're gonna make an appearance at WrestleMania. I don't really think so regarding Austin and John Cena. Maybe John Cena, but I don't really think Austin this year. But I could and would love to be wrong, but I don't see it. I think it just was a cool coincidence. But getting back to it, Rock called him again a son of a bitch and ran him into the side of the tour bus. Rock looked into the camera and told the fans to look at their hero. Rock told Mama Rhodes to look at her son. Again, Rock ran Cody into the tour bus about 2 more times. The Rock asked if viewers wanted to know why he's the final boss. Rock was censored while he said it didn't have to be like this. So I don't know, but whatever. Rock said Cody stuck his nose in his business and said the prophecy had come true. And the camera panned back over to Cody, which showed a bleeding Cody Rhodes from the forehead, which haven't seen blood like that on WWE. And it wasn't like gushing or anything, but just haven't seen blood really focused on and showcased like that. In WWE at least, in quite some time, which made it even that much more significant and mean more, in my opinion. The Rock punched him and then looked at the blood that was that Cody left on his fist, and Rock told Mama Rhodes to look. They removed a weight belt that read Mama Rhodes. So the belt itself was white, and then the Mama Rhodes that was in the center of it was just black lettering, which was obviously a great visual for the obvious red blood. Rock smeared Cody's blood on his hand and then rubbed it on the weight belt, which he recalled saying he would give to Mama Rhodes at WrestleMania. Rock held up Cody and told Mama Rhodes to look at her boy. Rock said Cody's father talked about hard times, but he said Cody doesn't know about hard times, but he will. Rock was censored while he told Cody that this is what happens when you fuck with the final boss, which is dope. Rock ran Cody into the side of the bus again and then knelt beside him. Rock looked into the camera and told Mama Rose to look at her son. He said it didn't have to be this way, but now it's the only way. And then Powell's point of view here, he said the main event felt like a tame television television main event, but they obviously made up for it with Rock beating the hell out of Cody. I think we can officially throw out all of the speculation about Rock being a double agent. I'm surprised they didn't go with a hotter main event on paper just to major sure, which I'm sure he meant make sure viewers stuck around to see the beatdown. Overall, an excellent penultimate edition of Raw before WrestleMania. It was a memorable night with compelling verbal exchanges, the surprise appearance of The Rock, and strong hype for several WrestleMania 40 matches. And then he goes on to discuss his .net membership subscription. But that final beatdown, guys, that is what was needed. That aggression from The Rock, that sinisterness from The Rock, it really that didn't even feel like a Hollywood Rock. That felt like something more evil almost, and something more, like I said, sinister. I think that's the best word that I can think of right now. Just something about The Rock's demeanor last night just felt nasty in every way, great way possible, right? Um, I love the fact that Cody bled, and I love the fact that they got the bleeding in the Rocks and pretty much confirmed and kept Rock's word that he was going to give Mama Rhodes a weight belt with Cody Rhodes' blood on it. So just in case they felt some type of way about having Cody bleed live, at Mania itself, Rock can bring the weight belt to Mania and hand it to Mama Rhodes like prior to the match starting. Just to get in the minds of Cody and Seth and to fuck with them even more, you know what I mean? So I think that I think that was smart and well done. I was not expecting a beatdown, to be honest with you guys. I was not expecting The Rock to show back up and to just demolish Cody like he did. I think it was needed for Cody, though. Cody needed the shit beat out of him. Cody needed to be bloodied up, especially by The Rock. Like, I'm still surprised that it came from The Rock, and that's what made me love it even more. But like I said, the fact that one, it solidifies how evil and how, like I said, sinister and this version of The Rock, and how he's willing to do whatever he needs to keep the bloodline protected and to protect the name of his family. It checks all those boxes. And then on the other hand, it makes you feel that much worse for Cody. It makes you question that much more, like, fuck, here we go. Like, is he really not going to finish his story? Is he going to get just demolished even more on night one to WrestleMania? Just so many things. And the beating that he took on I think it was his left shoulder and elbow area, that kind of made me nervous too. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he's fine, but I don't know, like that makes me worry. Is he gonna go into WrestleMania night one already injured? So I think all of that just really enhances and extends the story going into it. And I think they did such a great job not just filling time in and just banking off of the momentum that they already have built up going in. Like I said, since we're 2 weeks away from WrestleMania, they could have easily phoned it in, and we'll see what next week brings. But I don't think they're gonna phone it in next week either, because this was a show that The Rock wasn't even advertised for. I.e. the surprise aspect of him showing up. But I say that because if they were doing all this and The Rock wasn't even scheduled to be there, obviously, they planned it at some point. Imagine what they're gonna do for next week. So that being said, that is the full rundown of Monday Night Raw, at least the key moments from last night. Yes, there's some matches that we skipped over. But man, guys, I'm super stoked for the next 2 weeks of wrestling. I think we are, and it's just gonna keep getting better. I think what also, I'm gonna throw this last prediction out there, and I've said this before, so it's nothing new. I think the beatdown from Rock and Cody, what it also did, so a part three for the threading that it did. I think it also, in my mind, confirms that Rock and Cody is happening at SummerSlam, and Rock is staying a bad guy until then. And that slowly but surely, I may be crazy, but I could see Roman turning face prior to Rock turning face back at this point. So we're getting into that at a different point. This is already a long enough video, and I kept you guys long enough. So thank you guys and listening to the review, watching, downloading, do whatever you do with the show. I truly appreciate it. And let me know what you guys thought of the show as well. What you thought of what was your favorite moment? If you enjoy the Rock and Cody interactions more, if you enjoy the Punk and Drew and Seth Rollins aspect of it all. Like I said, you can follow me on Twitter at ASHMANNS or on the show's Twitter page at @KickAshPodcast_. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching the show and stay safe out there and just enjoy wrestling, guys. Good night.